Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. So I know this intro is a little different, it's a little more vlog style, but I just wanted to introduce the video and give you guys a little sense of what we are talking about today. So I had the pleasure to collab with LSAT Unplugged, and we really just talked about how the coronavirus, COVID-19 is affecting applicants with the LSAT and those who are applying to law schools right now. I know a lot of things are going on, things are changing, a lot of things are going online. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, things being canceled. So I figured this would be a really great opportunity to answer some of those questions and uncertainties that we have because of things that we are going through during this time. So if you guys have any other questions, please comment them down below. Check out the description box down below because there's a lot of great links that will be mentioned throughout the video, and I will see you guys next time.
Right now, a lot of the things that people are worried about are how the coronavirus is affecting not only their testing dates, because some of the testing dates for March haven't been canceled. For some people, April is going to be canceled as well. Other people are still in limbo depending on where it is. And I know for me, I heard that this was going to go on until August. For me, it's like, well, how is that going to work considering I'm supposed to start school in August, you know? I think this coronavirus thing is just, it's something that's affecting everybody, whether it's a student already who had to switch over to online or prospective students who are testing or students who are about to start in August as well.
Yeah, it is. But I think that students, what they've got to do is really take advantage of the downtime, if they have any, take advantage of the uncertainty and make the most of the time they have, even if they're stuck at home. With the LSAT being digital now and with so many resources being online, you actually don't need books. You don't need to go anywhere. What you need to do is turn your home, turn your apartment into a study center, an oasis, where you can focus on getting done what you've got to get done.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially since right now, I mean, unfortunately for some people, they're not working, but for those that are working from home, for those people who have the time off from work, I think right now is, like you mentioned, the perfect time to really get down and study. For those who are planning to take the test at a later time, or even though it's a limbo right now, just preparing yourself just so you're ready. That way, when the time comes and things start to clear up, you're able to just sign up for the test, take it, you know where you're testing at. I mean, if you think about it, it's really hard to study when you're going to school and when you're working. So right now that things are clearing up for some people in terms of schedule wise, it is a good time to hone in those study skills and really just get it done.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it's hard to study when you have the uncertainty around when the test is going to be, what law school is going to look like in the summer and the fall. Is it going to be online? Is it going to go forward? A lot of unknowns here, and it can feel like there's all these external forces kind of crashing down on you, whether it's the latest government limitation locking everything down further, or it's LSAC canceling the March LSAT, likely canceling the April LSAT, maybe even the June LSAT also. But there's no downside to being ready for the LSAT too early. These skills do not go away.
Exactly. And it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to prepare now, regardless of whether you're going to take it in 2 months or 6 months, whatever it is, it's better to just prepare as much as you can, because at the end of the day, we don't really know when all of this whole coronavirus fiasco is going to lift, when things are going to start opening again. We don't know. So it's really better just to take advantage, like you mentioned, of the time that we do have, whether it's 1 or 2 months or it's 6-7 months, just to have that time and really dedicate it to study so we get the scores that ultimately we know that we can get.
Exactly. And so speaking right now towards the end of March, I'm virtually certain the April LSAT is going to be canceled. If this is going to peak in mid-April, there's no way the April LSAT could move forward. So I'm telling everyone right now, go for the June LSAT at the earliest. Set that as a target because it is useful to have a goal and move forward for that. Or maybe July.
Yeah, and I know I've been getting a lot of emails from law school saying that they're still, because of everything that's going on, they're going to start accepting the June LSAT. So even then, I think that would be a good target to have, considering that a lot of schools are going to extend their application deadlines, extend the LSAT date that they're going to take. So at least that gives more people some time to study in and retake it if they have to.
Yeah, that does, especially for those who have an urgent need to be done applying this cycle and start this fall. But I really think for most students, they're in a much better position using this as an opportunity to slow down, take a break, and apply at the beginning of the next cycle.
Mhm.
Because if you apply at the beginning, you have better odds of getting in, and you also could get more scholarship money. And so
Yes.
for the vast majority of students, I think a silver lining could be for them in this case to slow down and wait another year, maybe give themselves another couple months to study for the LSAT and truly master it, taking it in July or August or October, and then applying towards the beginning of next cycle.
And how would, for students who want to, let's say they decide to take that additional year because of everything that's going on, would you say that retaking the test for those that have already taken it would benefit them, even if it's not the first or second time that they retake that exam?
Yeah, I would. I think that most students would benefit from retaking. And I typically recommend that students do retake at least once.
Mhm.
I recommend also only taking it when you feel ready. But if you could do just a couple points better, even through luck alone, that only stands to benefit you because law schools do not average multiple LSAT scores. They only take the highest. So if you deserve a 160, you get a 161 take, a 163 the other take, you've got a 163. That's what you're applying with. That's what's giving you the scholarship money. And if you go down, no big deal because they only take the highest. So I would say for a lot of folks studying now, if they've taken it before and they're going to wait another cycle, take it again later this summer. And then if you're taking it for the first time in the summer, maybe take it again later in the summer or take it in the fall.
What about those students who have already gotten their law school acceptances and they're already planning to go, but because of the uncertainty of whether schools are going to be online or, hopefully things get back running again and they go in person, do you think that they should take this time where they can retake the LSAT if they didn't get the score that they wanted to try again next cycle to get a higher score and possibly get into a better school with a better scholarship? Or do you think it would be wise to take the acceptances that they do have and start school in the August, whichever way, whether it's online because of everything that's going on or in person if things get better?
That's a great question. And so for someone who's already been accepted, it's really easy to take that acceptance and just go ahead and want to start and get it over with, begin. But if you can retake in June, let's say, and come back to the law schools and say, I really want to go to your school, but you only offered me $5,000 a year. I went back, retook the LSAT. I got a 5-point jump. Some other school offered me $20,000 a year. Can you match that? I've calculated the cost of living in your city versus this other city. And this is really, really what I need to make this work. And I've got the LSAT score to back it up. That is huge. That's the easiest money you'll ever make. If you can get $15,000 more per year over the course of 3 years, just from retaking the LSAT, that's the easiest money you'll ever make.
Yeah.
It's well worth doing it. And if your scholarship offers or your acceptances aren't what you want them to be, then yes, it is worth taking a cycle and reapplying with a higher score and also applying at the beginning of the next cycle if you can.
Yeah, especially because also I know some schools, at least here in Southern California, a lot of the schools have spring admission. So even if someone perhaps maybe didn't want to wait the full year, they could always just take that one semester and just apply for the spring, which I'm assuming would probably be less competitive as well, as most applicants apply during the fall rather than the spring.
Yeah, I would imagine also that spring admissions is a little bit less competitive. Also, part-time law school is a little bit less competitive as well, but you still get the same degree at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so if anyone is in a position where they got acceptances they don't love, I do think it's worth sitting out a cycle or half a cycle and waiting and reapplying, especially if schools could be online this fall and that's not really the experience you were looking for. If you really wanted that in-person on-campus experience, there are no guarantees what's going to happen in the fall. I don't want to be alarmist here, but it really is an open-ended question. I mean, the fact that schools across the country, K-12, undergrad and undergraduate level, they've all moved online.
Yeah.
And this may last for months. We'll see what happens with how the government handles this, but I really am wondering what could be the case for the fall. I think it's really an open question.
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, I work in the education field, and although I am still working from home the constant thing that we're talking about is, okay, well, school is still going to go, but it's completely online now. Like there's no way that the students will be going back anytime soon in person. So it's just, we're making that transition to doing everything online. So I can only imagine what it's like for the law schools that are going through the application cycle, how they're even doing all of that, considering that they can't physically meet to go over all the applications. So I can only imagine what it would be like for them and what it'll be in August.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I mean, for admissions officers themselves, it's not a huge deal because most of the applications they're all online anyway. So they can work remotely and evaluate them. But I see a longer term trend, and you can tell me what you think as someone who works in education, but I think this is going to have a massive impact on higher education because so much of it moving online. Why should a student pay the same price for an on-campus experience as an online experience? Online should be way cheaper.
Exactly. Well, that was one of my own personal concerns is I have held off from accepting a seat at one of the schools that I'm considering. In fact, the original plan was to go and visit it this Saturday, but obviously with everything going on now, it's an online Zoom meeting that we're having. But one of my questions is like, is my tuition going to be the same? Why am I going to pay an exorbitant amount of money for resources that I won't even have access to as an online student? And I'm trying to decide if do I want to go to law school online? I mean, in undergrad, I rarely took any online classes just because I prefer to have that in-person, being able to talk to my professor experience. So now I'm just like, well, do I want to go to school online? Is that a risk that I'm willing to take? And just wait and see when everything clears up? Or is that, something that maybe I should wait until next cycle, which is kind of what I was asking. Because that's kind of where I'm at too, is I don't know if I should wait until the next cycle and take this time to retake the LSAT. Because I mean, I got a good enough score to get in, but I know I could do better and possibly get in somewhere else and get a better scholarship. So right now, just the uncertainty of knowing is that a risk that I want to take starting law school for the first time online and then having to pay all this money?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that you could do better and you could get more scholarship money by retaking, and you're not in a hurry, and you're concerned about beginning 1L online, then all of that put together, to me, that is a strong indication that holding off might be worth your while.
Mm-hmm.
But for a different applicant who did pretty well on the LSAT, they're happy with where they are, they're happy with their offers, and they're not that concerned about starting 1L online, then I think it's not a huge deal. But I often hear law school compared to being like high school. It's a small, tight-knit community, and that on-campus experience, the extracurriculars are quite important, especially for 1Ls when you're going somewhere new, acclimating to a new life where you've got nothing else going on but law school, especially for that first year. To try and do it from home where you've got your parents or you've got family who could potentially get in the way when you really need to be hitting the books hard, I could see that being difficult.
Especially for networking. It's right now it's hard to get a job regardless, but being able to make those connections by interning or just depending on the professors and connections that they have, if a student has applied to a specific specialty or type of law, just having those resources available to have that in-person network is so valuable that a lot of online students will be missing out because we don't have those resources anymore. How are we going to network with people? How are we going to intern? How are we going to, be able to secure a job after graduating if the majority of our time is spent just taking classes online?
Totally. And I want to address this from another angle as well for those who are listening and watching, which is that all the issues we've been raising right now are many different reasons why people applying this cycle that's finishing up now might choose not to go, which means that if you are choosing to go, despite all of the issues that we're raising, that gives you more scholarship negotiation power because law schools are going to have a drop in the number of students accepting those offers of admission. So students may have more leverage to negotiate between multiple offers, or if they do retake in June, assuming that test goes forward.
Yeah, I think especially for applicants who have already gotten their acceptances, I think anytime after April, which I've I've heard that April is usually the time where you have to decide if you're going to take the seat or not. At least that's what it is with some of the schools that I've applied to. The deadline is April. I'm assuming after that, they're going to hear back whether students are taking the seats or not taking the seats. So I think applying after April will probably be perhaps a good time for applicants who want to continue going to school amidst everything going on. Like if they're okay going to school online, possibly after that would be a good time to apply, considering some students may not want to end up going to school because of everything going on.
Absolutely. And those deposit deadlines, that's a great time to reach out with a letter of continued interest, making those connections with the admission officers, scheduling a phone call or a video call with them to reiterate your interest in that school. Because once the deposit deadlines hit and schools are saying, we didn't get a lot of deposits, as many as we were hoping for, who should we go back to the wait list for?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're top of mind because you just reached out a day or week ago, that's a great chance to be at the top of their mind when they're choosing who to take off the wait list.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it just depends really on the type of student. So there are some people who thrive online because they are parents or they have other things going on, especially for part-time students. So probably this is a good opportunity for them. That way they don't have to worry about, fitting in class, especially since you don't really get to pick your schedule as a 1L. So it probably is good for those who thrive in the online school environment. But I think for those who prefer the traditional in-person experience, I think we should really just take advantage of this time that we were forced to have and just really study on the LSAT and take advantage of the resources that we have. Like now that the LSAC has partnered with Khan Academy and we have that free resource, there really is no excuse to say that we can't try to better our scores.
Absolutely. And there are more online resources than ever before. And I do want to mention a few of the free resources that I personally offer to students going through this process. I've got the LSAT blog website with over 1,000 articles on everything LSAT and law school admissions. I've also got the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast and Facebook group and Instagram, all of the same name, putting out several pieces of information every single day, keeping up with the latest updates on what's unfolding with the process, especially the whole coronavirus situation. And I'm trying to share a lot of insights for those, especially who are studying at home, locked down in this situation, trying to figure out how to self-study for the LSAT when there are still tons of online distractions, news distractions, family and roommate distractions, keeping it all together.
I think it's also important just to be able to keep ourselves accountable and making a schedule. But I know when I posted I did post a video on the Facebook LSAT group page, just because I know a lot of people had questions about what the LSAT was and just getting their mind around it. And some of the questions that were asked on my post were if I personally was going to make videos on breaking down LSAT problems. And I don't feel like I am qualified to be able to break those down, but I know I was watching your channel and you had those resources available. And I think that's amazing that now we have that free resource on YouTube where we can just Google LSAT logic game examples or reading cop breakdowns, and we can easily access videos on how to break it down, and it'll come from more than one perspective as well, which is good because not everybody learns the same way. So it's good to have more than one perspective on how to be able to break those questions down, and that way we can all feel like we know exactly how it's going based on our specific learning styles as well.
Exactly. And I think that those online resources, as you said, are more important than ever before because everyone's cooped up. This is really the only way to get access to that information. But good news is the internet drops the cost of distribution to zero. So just like this discussion we're having right now will be available to everyone streaming for free, so are all those other resources that we've put on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think it's right now with the whole coronavirus thing, it's something that, is really just forcing us to take advantage of either the time or start making the time and organizing ourselves. But really, we just need to look at this in an optimistic way and see, well, okay, where am I at? Where do I want to be? Really look within ourselves and see, can I thrive in an online environment? It's as much as it is that sometimes people may not want to take that extra gap year. I know for me, for instance, I already took a gap year. I graduated college last year. So if I were to take another one, that would be 2 years out. But I need to think about, well, is that additional year, is that going to be a benefit for me? Am I going to drown if I'm in an online environment? Or do I feel like I can excel in that? Because at the end of the day, like, we need to make sure that whatever decisions we make, we're making them rational and ensuring that we're putting our best interest when we're making those decisions, whether it's taking the LSAT again and making sure that we're putting in the time to study, or deciding if we're going to go to school online or in person, because we don't really know what's going on. We need to make sure that we make those decisions so we put ourselves in a position where we can succeed.
Exactly. This is really a time for people to do some deep critical thinking about what they want to do, what their goals are, and make the most of all the online resources available, not only for the LSAT, but also browsing schools' websites, setting up video calls with admissions, setting up video calls with current students, even to really do the research to see, is this the right decision? Is it the right time? And what else do I need to set myself up for success? And I could imagine there are some students, I'm speaking with them, where they're taking the next several months to do nothing but study for the LSAT. Many have gone from where they were previously living back home to their parents' place and stay cooped up there for a while and just hammer out the LSAT, maybe take 3-4 months, if that's how long this goes, to buckle down and focus on it. And so if you're one of the people, many other people who are obsessively hitting refresh on the news and on Twitter and on Facebook, which I understand, try to set some hard limits on that time, because the world's not going to end in the next hour. You can take a break for a while and focus on the LSAT, focus on admissions, your personal statement maybe, and then come back to whatever you wanted a little bit later. But your competitors are doing that. And so maybe that's a little bit of extra motivation to keep in mind.
Exactly. So we really just need to start scheduling ourselves, giving ourselves not a strict schedule, but, considering that some people aren't working, it's easy to just wake up whenever you want and go to bed whenever you want, just because, there's nothing really solid that's saying you have to be here at this place at this time. So just being able to hold ourselves accountable and just take advantage of the time that we have, even like you mentioned, even if it's an hour a day, if you're not taking the test until June, July, or you're waiting until the next cycle, you really have until October even to take the exam, which is many months away from now. So an hour a day, and the closer you get, you can increase the amount of time that you study. That really will make a difference in your study habits and how you're testing, and just being able to build your stamina as well if you're taking those practice exams and taking them in the testing-like environment as well.
Yeah, I want to circle back to one thing you said about keeping a strict schedule and how that might not be necessary. I agree that different things work for different people, but I find especially with the amorphous openness of everyone's daily schedules right now, it is easy to delay actually buckling down on the LSAT until later in the day, and that doesn't really happen as much as it should. So I would recommend students consider, those who have a really open-ended day, to be strict, but not grueling. So strict.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like, we don't, there doesn't need to be some where you end up punishing yourself if you don't get it done at a certain time, but definitely making the time to get it done, whether it's the first thing that you do in the morning just because you study better when you do things right when you get up, or in the middle of the day once you're done doing whatever daily tasks that you need to do. But I do think that it is important to just have that scheduled time in there, so there is no excuse not to do it. But just, you also don't need to beat yourself over it constantly if for whatever reason one day you don't get to it as at the time that you had scheduled.
Right. One thing I created that's been extraordinarily popular are my day-by-day LSAT study plans, where I lay out exactly what to be doing every single day over the course of your prep, which articles to read, which videos to watch, which problems to complete. And I lay those out for 1 month through 7 months, depending on what your target test date is. But I also created a daily plan for how to lay out your day from 6 a.m. till midnight, let's say. Yeah. And I adapted it for the coronavirus specifically because I know that many people are in this position now where they're able to study for the LSAT full time. And so I'll share that with you. It's free. It's an infographic.
Absolutely.
Really easy
I would love
easy
that.
to digest.
take
Cool.
advantage of that, because I think, after everything that we've been discussing, I've kind of been just internalizing and thinking about it while we're talking right now. But I think for me is I might really consider just taking that and perhaps applying the next cycle.
Awesome. Yeah. So is there anything we didn't touch on?
I think one of my only questions is, and something that a lot of my friends are worried about right now, just in terms of the LSAT, is how many times is too many to retake the LSAT. I know that's a common question that most people worry about. So, I've taken it 2-3 times. Like, what if I take it one more time? Is that too many times? Would it look bad on my application? So I think that's something that I kind of want to see what your perspective is how much is too much.
Yeah, sure. I think that 2, 3, even 4 times is totally fine. 5 or 6 starts to look a little bit like maybe you're not exercising the best judgment as to deciding when to take it. So if you are in that position, I would write an addendum explaining why maybe something went wrong one of the times, especially if there was a digital LSAT tech issue or glitch. Admissions certainly understands that, but I wouldn't worry about 2, 3, 4 times. It's normal, especially with all the digital LSAT issues in the past year. They're seeing a lot more retakes, a lot more cancellations during that period in particular.
So would you say for students who do end up canceling their score, I know when it was a paper LSAT, it wasn't necessarily recommended to cancel your score. How do you feel now that it's digital, how it affects if students were to cancel their scores after viewing them?
I think canceling, well, you can't, the July LSAT in particular was a unique situation where you could view your score before canceling. That was a one-time thing. They haven't done that since.
Oh.
So I think cancellations are really a relic from back when law schools did not average and only took the highest. Excuse, I misspoke. Back when law schools did average multiple scores. But now that there's not really a downside to having a low score on record followed by a higher score, then there's no reason to cancel. I would say you should only cancel if you know for a fact that something went terribly, terribly wrong and you would have an embarrassingly low score on record. But if you cancel, that creates a big question mark for them where they don't really know what to make of it. And so I would typically avoid canceling in most cases.
And then as far as when you're reporting the scores, I know in the applications, it'll give you the option to put if you're going to take the LSAT or if you've taken the LSAT already, you should put in all the scores that you've had if you have taken it more than once. So like, let's say you took it twice, you put in the score that you got the first time and then the score that you got the second time, right? Like you shouldn't just put your highest score.
Oh, they're going to see all of them from LSAC. It'll be on your report. LSAC sends a score report listing everything from the past 5 years so that they're listing your scores on record as well as cancellations, as well as absences. And there should never be an absence because you can withdraw even the day before and law schools will never know you were registered for that one.
But I think we pretty much covered it all. We talked about really just taking advantage of the time that we have and doing some deep self-reflection and seeing, what is going to be the best situation for us and how can we put ourselves in a position where we can really just succeed in whatever it is that we choose to do, whether it's online, retaking, not retaking, or waiting for the next cycle, whatever it is. I think it's crucial that we do some self-reflection because if not, we're really just going to miss out on this opportunity. And, you can look at it as a downside or you can look at it as a new opportunity. It really just depends how you look at it. But I think we should look at it as an opportunity to, that we were given in this sense to get our ducks in a row and just get everything tied up. And so we can really just put ourselves out there and be as competitive as we possibly can.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because this is a unique time and it's also a unique opportunity in particular where we have many students have several hours of unscheduled time that they could use to make the most of this. And so I would encourage them to seize it.
And even for those students who possibly are still working, I think just taking advantage of the resources like the prep course that the Khan Academy has and the resources that you offer. I think the daily log that you have setting up what you should be studying and how you should be doing it or what you need to be covering is a great resource because I know for me sometimes when you're making your own study plan, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do each day? I know I need to study an hour a day. I know I need to do this, but sometimes we need to break it down a little further. Like, okay, well, what exactly do I need to do? And by breaking it down like that, it makes it easier for you to know, okay, this is what I need to do today. today, tomorrow I need to do this. And that way you continue to set yourself and have that schedule that you need to make sure that you're following the process that you need to be following in order to get to the target that you want to get.
That's the idea, to remove all the guesswork and make it as easy as possible to move forward.
That's perfect. And I think, we just need to take advantage of all of this and just put it to our best abilities and just do as best as we can and just move forward from that. And hopefully everything clears up. But if it doesn't, just continue studying and be prepared for whatever it is to come.
Exactly. And I'll just leave folks with my resources again, but I could send them over to you to include in the link below.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got the LSAT blog, as well as the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast, as well as the Facebook group and the Instagram. So it's LSAT Unplugged and LSAT blog.
So yeah, definitely send me those resources and I will link them down below. And that way, if anybody has any other questions, they could ask you, but definitely reach out to those resources.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me, Daisy. Appreciate it.